Hi, I'm the Arty Dans and welcome to this special video, a look back at 10 of the best 2019 Asian cinema releases, specifically Japanese, Korean and Chinese movies. This video is a collaboration between myself and two other very big Asian film fanatics. Brian, who runs the Asian film database site Asian Film Fans, and Oliver, a contributor over at My Drama List who also runs his own blog Watching Asia. Together, we've come up with a list of 10 films that we think are essential viewing. There will be other great movies we've missed that didn't quite make this video. A collage of some of those titles are on screen right now. But we think these 10 movies perfectly capture the creativity and excitement of Asian cinema from 2019. There's something here for everyone: action, thriller, comedy, drama. So in alphabetical order, let's take a look. 12 Suicidal Teens, reviewed by Arty Dans. Released back in January in its home country of Japan in 2019, 12 Suicidal Teens from director Yukihiko Tatsumi, known more for his horror movies and TV work, tells the story of 12 teenagers who meet up in an abandoned hospital to end their lives together. However, once they all gather in the room they're supposed to meet in, they discover the body of a 13th mysterious guest and set about investigating who this person is and why he's here. This is a clever drama thriller that relies on the strength of its story and its characters to charm the audience into its mysterious world. The 12 teens are all very individual, comprised of the usual eclectic mix of characters you'd normally find in Japanese pop culture media. There's the popular girl, the goth, the academically brilliant, a child of a gangster, one with terminal illness, and so forth. There are some scene-stealing moments from the cast of well-known local actors who will be instantly recognizable to fans of Japanese teen and popular cinema, specifically Mihiro Takazui, who plays the stoic teen number 1, Satoshi, the organizer of this event, and the one all the teens instantly suspect is up to foul play. Additionally, the performance of Makenyu as teen number 5, Shinjiro, is equally as impressive as the teen with the terminal illness but with a keen eye for investigation work, and who ultimately puts all the pieces of this cryptic puzzle together. Movie lovers after a fast-paced all-short movie are advised to approach this title with caution. It's very methodical in its pacing, slowly drip-feeding the audience just enough information to entice you to watch on. At 2 hours in length, it is a movie that will reward the viewer brave enough to stick out the running time with an ending that may feel like a cop-out, but in fact is an almost perfect fit for this film. The Captain, reviewed by Oliver. After Operation Mekong, Operation Red Sea, and The Bravest, the Chinese cinema industry continues on with the series of epic tales about infallible servicemen. Andrew Lau's The Captain is such a movie, and it was inspired by the true story of Sichuan Airlines Flight 3U8633. The story takes place on the 14th of May 2018. Captain Liu Changjun prepares for a standard flight from Chongqing to Lhasa together with his two co-pilots as well as the flight attendants supervised by the chief purser. Passengers on board an Airbus A319 plane and everything seemed to be in order. 40 minutes after takeoff, on the altitude of 32,000 feet, the windshield blows out, sucking one of the co-pilots halfway out of the cockpit. The plane is now depressurized and with inoperative radio communications. To make matters worse, the flight is cut off on the Tibetan Plateau from the nearest emergency landing site because of the raging storm. The only hope for the survival of 119 passengers are the captain and the crew. The Captain is a fascinating disaster movie which, instead of descending into American slow-paced procedural dramas like Flight from 2010 or Sully from 2016, goes all action and throws callbacks to such memorable motion pictures like Airport from 1970 and Miracle Landing from 1990. Even though Jung Han-yu dominates the screen with his charismatic presence, The Captain is not a one-man show because it strives to faithfully retell the tragedy of Sichuan Airlines Flight. The movie goes to such an extent on this matter that it even pays a beautiful tribute to the real heroes in the end credits. The movie's primary asset are its awesome visuals, evidently improved by its decent CGI effects. In addition, elaborate action sequences will certainly keep the viewers on the edge of their seats. However, some should prepare for a little dose of cliches like flashbacks about loved ones, passengers having panic attacks, and pathos such as trusting the crew, which are, in a way, obligatory for this kind of movie. With regards to performance, Jung Han-yu is obviously too cool for school as the captain saving the day. Second best performer, and a true highlight of this picture, is Yuan Chen as Chief Purser. There are also some really good performances from the actors and actresses playing the passengers in distress. If you have a chance, then get on board with the captain, fasten your seatbelts, and experience the worst case scenario with a miraculous ending. Apart from being an informative account of the crew's heroism, it's also one gripping story. The captain will keep you entertained from beginning to end. The Dude in Me, reviewed by Brian, also known as The Man Inside Me. The Dude in Me is a fantasy comedy released at the start of 2019. The film tells the story of a criminal turned entrepreneur, Pan Su, who, after an accident, wakes to find out that he's now in the body of an overweight high school kid in Kim Dong-hyun. Whilst trapped inside Kim Dong-hyun's body, Pan Su learns to understand the problems this kid is facing in everyday life, as well as the events that led up to the accident in the first place. Pan Su goes about fixing some of Dong-hyun's problems whilst, at the same time, discovering some of his own. The Dude in Me is a delightful surprise of a film. This was a film I watched on the basis of recommendations, having completely skipped on it during its initial release at the start of 2019. On the strength of actor Park Sang-woong, I was confident that this would be a good film, but little did I know that he would play more of a supporting role. In fact, the first half of the film is almost entirely carried by the smart performances of Jin Young, in only his second big screen role, and Lee Soo-min in her film debut. The plot itself is little more than a vessel to allow the young actors to enjoy themselves, and boy do they do that. Truth be told, there are many holes in the plot and way too many convenient moments for the plot to truly be taken seriously. Yet despite this film is just so much fun. Lee Jun-hyuk as Park Sang-woong's number one is a particular standout, and to top it all off, the fight scenes are actually very well staged and executed. There are scenes that wouldn't look out of place in a typical Korean action thriller. There are a number of small twists and discoveries along the way. Sadly, these twists were way too convenient and predictable to truly be unexpected or a revelation. Yet it doesn't take away anything from an otherwise enjoyable film, and personally, the film I had the most fun watching all year. The Dude in Me is an interesting take on body swapping films, and is a film the whole family can enjoy. Exit, reviewed by Brian. Exit is a disaster action comedy film that was released in July 2019 and tells the story of Yeongnam, one of the best rock climbers during college who, after graduation, has not had much luck in finding a career job and has to depend on his parents to get by. For his mum's 70th birthday party, Yeongnam insists on having the party at Cloud Garden in order to have a chance meeting with his old crush at college, Lee Ju, played by Girl Generation's Yoona from Confidential Assignment. Of course, in a true predictable fashion, disaster strikes. A crazy mad scientist covers the district with toxic gas. Blah blah. Trust me, plot setup's not important here. Just enjoy the madness. And Yeongnam, with the help of Iju, must use their rock climbing skills to aid everyone to safety. Exit is such a fun film. From the first scene with Yeongnam practicing his rock climbing in a public park all the way up to the final frame, the jokes start early yet very few fall flat. And while the film itself is very funny, the adrenaline-packed climbs with almost parkour-like set pieces truly showcase a real sense of danger. Jo Jung-suk is a natural in comedic roles and definitely stands out here, but the supporting cast also have their moments, especially Yeongnam's father, played by Park In-hwan. If there's one criticism in the film, however, it's the overacting that can sometimes dull the key moments of an otherwise fabulous film. Not to be missed. Exit is a fantastic film in every way, and after watching it, it's obvious why this is one of the highest grossing Korean films of 2019. Hit and Run Squad, reviewed by Oliver. Hit and Run Squad managed to generate a huge buzz before its release due to a stellar cast of popular actors. Released back in January in South Korea, the movie tells the story of a police officer who is transferred to a hit-and-run team after a failed investigation involving police corruption. Yun Shi-yong joins forces together with Officer Seo-min Jae and team leader Woo Sun-young in order to catch Jung Jae-chol, a racing maniac who also happens to be a business tycoon. However, catching the culprit proves to be an arduous undertaking. Even though the title of the film clearly implies car action, you have to be aware that this movie is primarily a crime thriller with racing elements rather than the other way around. All in all, not everything car related has to be Initial D right away. Nevertheless, Hit and Run Squad manages to deliver plenty of gripping chase sequences as well as an engaging storyline. On top of that, there is quite a Lethal Weapon type music score. The secret behind this film's magic is its amazing cast. Gong Hyo-jin and Ryu Jung-yeol are great as upright police officers determined to catch the baddies and save the day. There are also great supporting parts from veteran actresses Young Jung-ah and Jeong Hee-jin, who invoke the classic dirty cop versus good cop conflict. However, the ultimate show stealer is Jo Jong-suk as the main bad guy with a stutter and some serious behavioural issues. He could easily befriend the Joker. If you are looking for an interesting movie that involves police and cars, then Hit and Run Squad is the choice for you. Director Han Jung-hee was so sure the film was going to be a hit, and it was, with 1 million moviegoers in the first 6 days of release, that a mid-credits scene was included, which heavily implies a sequel. Some critics cite weak plot development as the film's primary disadvantage, but I really did not mind that in view of the wonderful performances by the main leads. Innocent Witness, reviewed by Brian. Released in early 2019, Innocent Witness is a drama that tells the story of a lawyer, Yang Sun-ho, who is tasked with working with a young autistic girl, Im Ji-yu, who is the only witness in a murder case. One day, Yi-ju witnesses what she believes to be a murder in the apartment across the street. The accused, Mi-run, claims she only failed to prevent the suicide of her employer. Smartly, the framing of the incident is such that the audience must also question Ji-yu's testimony and what she really saw. Whilst at its core this film is about Im Ji-yu and how she is treated throughout the court case and by society in general, the film actually combines many layers to its characters, resulting in a film which has multiple points of interest and progressively sees the growth of a number of characters along the way, in particular Yang Sun-ho. So whilst the core narrative is pretty generic, it's the story around this that provides most of the interest throughout the film. By building up the characters expertly, director Lee Han has produced a film in which the audience truly cares by the end, not only about the outcome of the case, but also about the other characters. This is a film highly recommended, more so for the expert performances by the key characters than the overall story, which whilst predictable, is still a solid emotional ride. Pegasus, reviewed by Oliver. Pegasus marks the 4th film by a blogger turned filmmaker Han Han, which tackles his own experiences of being a rally driver. Meet Zhang Qi, a 6-time racing champion who was kicked out of the public spotlight after participating in an illegal street race. Fast forward 5 years, Zhang Qi is now a single father, wants to regain his driving license and return to the world of rallying, currently dominated by new technology and young drivers. Together with his son and fellow teammates, Zhang Qi overcomes many hilarious obstacles in order to get back to the top and win the championship. Pegasus is not so much a sports drama than a light-hearted, happy-go-lucky comedy done very much in the style of Stephen Chow's flicks. Director Han Han establishes a very ironic take on the underdog story, making fun of many cliches that come with this motif. The main character is a goofy yet likeable boaster who wants to redeem himself after hitting rock bottom. To do that, he needs to take a lesson in humbleness so as to get the money and car needed for racing. Shenteng is an experienced comedian and he clearly shows his craft as the leading man. There are also decent supporting performances from Andrew Yin, Johnny Huang, and Winston Chow. By the way, keep an eye out for the cameo from the Toyota AE86. To sum up, many hilarious situations and well-executed racing scenes kept me entertained throughout the movie. The only disadvantage, I would say, is an ambiguous yet cartoonish ending. Nevertheless, if you like 0-2 hero stories, then go ahead and check out Pegasus. It's a fairly enjoyable story about willpower and determination.
900 and an incredible weight of 1,080 kgs. This car can go from 0 to 100 in 2.1 seconds. It has to be one of the best cars I've ever seen entering this race.
我现在差得多了。
你现在1公里比人家慢了0.12秒，还没有被甩开，没事啊，我们还有机会的。
共是落后的9秒多。
我可以把涡轮延时调到最大吗？
Samurai Marathon, reviewed by Oliver. Samurai Marathon is the latest Jidaigeki, directed by Bernard Rose and based on a 2014 novel by Akihiro Dobashi. This period picture focuses on the origins of marathons in Japan at the end of the Edo period. When American troops led by Commodore Perry arrive at the Japanese shoreline, they cause quite a commotion amongst officials. Local leaders are afraid of potential attacks from foreign invaders, and one of them, Lord Itakura, announces a 60-kilometer marathon contest in order to strengthen his samurai. One of the loyal warriors, Jinai Karasawa, is actually a spy working for the shogunate. Jinai misinterprets his lord's intentions as a call to arms and sends a wrong message to the capital. As a result of this, a squad of assassins is dispatched in order to suppress the presumed uprising. Samurai Marathon may have a bit of a confusing introduction in view of many characters and plotlines interwoven with each other, but the further the film goes, the better it gets. The story greatly reminded me about such classics as Hideo Goshima's Three Outlaw Samurais from 1964 and Hikachi's Okamoto's Kill from 1968. There are multiple perspectives focusing on characters who participate in the marathon. Eventually, everything comes together when the assassins arrive and the samurai have to race against time to save Lord Itakura. Additional advantage is a beautiful cinematography done by Takuro Ishikaza. The atmospheric forest setting and smooth camera work really evoke early films of Akira Kurosawa. Also, the musical score composed by Philip Glass gives a breath of fresh air and emphasizes the gravity of the difficult situation the samurai have found themselves in. The all-star cast can't go unnoticed as well. Takeru Sato's portrayal of a conflicted samurai became his second nature. His performance is aided by Nana Komatsu, Shota Sometami, and Mirai Moriyama in supporting roles. Surprisingly, Naoto Takenaka has a small but great part as a retired mentor. If you like historic movies, then you can safely check out Samurai Marathon. It's a well-made drama which provides nods to the golden age of samurai flicks. It will certainly keep you entertained. The Wandering Earth, reviewed by the Arty Dans. Based on a novel by Chinese sci-fi author Liu Chuxin, the sun is slowly dying out and the survival of Earth and its inhabitants are at risk. The world's governments join forces to create the United Earth Government. Their sole mission is to rehouse the Earth, 4.2 light years away in another solar system. This is a science fiction disaster movie on a grand scale and had never been attempted before in Chinese cinema, an industry more comfortable with constant retellings of ancient fantasy tales. So a movie like this was a breath of fresh air, which kickstarted Chinese cinema into making more special effects heavy science fiction action movies. The story of this movie involves relocating the actual planet from our solar system to a completely new one. And all of this by using a series of thrusters and engines designed to stop the rotation of the Earth and move it in the right direction. While the science behind this movie might be magnificently flawed and virtually impossible, you're here for the ride this movie takes you on. If you're a fan of similar American disaster movies like Armageddon, Deep Impact, and Interstellar, then this will be right down your alley. On top of solid special effects is a superb visual presentation with desolate yet recognizable landmarks. If you're familiar with China, you will be familiar with the locations on display in this film. It is a thoroughly entertaining science fiction disaster film. It's well worth your time to watch. saving what all three of us, including most of you out there, consider to be the best Asian film of 2019, is the utterly enthralling black comedy thriller from Korea, Bong Joon-ho's Parasite. Winner of the Palme d'Or award at the Cannes Film Festival and deserving of all the praise it gets, Parasite tells the story of a family of poor lower-class scam artists who, one by one, infiltrate an upper-middle-class family's home as hired help until an unexpected turn of events change their lives. I think this is one of the best movies from 2019, from any country. The performances of the whole cast is flawless, the story is engaging and entertaining, and the direction of the movie is outstanding. Scenes are full of both dark humour and human drama, with a lovable cast that you don't want to see anything bad happen to. The themes of Korean class warfare may be lost on international audiences, but there is something deep in this film we can all relate to, that family is above all the most important thing in life. But don't just take my word of it. This is what Oliver and Brian also thought of Parasite. Brian said, looking up the meaning of the word parasite should give you a very good idea about the underlying theme of this film. An organism that lives on, or an organism of, another species. Boiled down to its core, the above clearly defines the actions in this film. Two families who, by society's standards, are ultimately living as different species and the need of one family to infiltrate and thrive off the other. Each step the family takes in order to do what they must in order to survive is defined in such detail, yet never once felt tedious or needless. There are so many little moments throughout the film that when you replay them back in your head and truly think about the film's conclusion, these small moments stand out and amount to pure genius. And of course, we expect no less from the great Bong Joon-ho. I don't think I'm giving away anything here when I say that Parasite is a roller coaster of a film, but one that never feels out of position. The situations and the ultimate conclusion of the film are also believable. The fact that this is a dark comedy is even more incredible. The film deals with a tough subject matter, the psychology of social class, in fun ways, and even throughout some of its darker moments, there are smiles to be had. Shockingly, South Korea has never had a film nominated for Best Foreign Film, now called International Film, at the Oscars. I have a feeling Parasite will change that, and who knows, may even win Best Picture. For those who watch the film, do not ignore The Rock. Whilst it may symbolise wealth and good luck, its journey throughout the film is anything but that. Parasite is without a doubt the best Korean film of the year and one of Bong Joon-ho's best films, just behind Mother and Memories of a Murder, in my opinion. Parasite, best drama, best comedy, best adventure, maybe even Korea's best director. Oliver says, positive recommendations from my drama list and the unconventional movie poster provided me, at first, with a cognitive dissonance. I expected a super dark and psychedelic slasher, but the first half of the film seemed like a funny comedy about small-time crooks. However, halfway through the picture, all hell broke loose. Parasite's main assets are not the drastic shifts in tone, but the message it tries to communicate. I would not call the storyline as the ever-trendy Marxist critique of capitalism. This movie is not just about the haves and have-nots. It is about the deterioration of our society, and we get to see that through the lens of Kitaik and his family. Furthermore, I could not help but compare Parasite with the previous Cannes winner, Shoplifters, from 2018. Even though the two films are completely different, I found myself cheering for both families who found themselves in unexpected circumstances. In the case of Parasite, I badly wanted the story to remain a family drama. This just goes on to show the masterful control of director Bong Joon-ho over the viewer. Even if some scenes are graphic, I think it's best to watch the film with your family and or friends because the story keeps you guessing what will happen next. To sum it up, Parasite effectively discouraged me from trying to buy a fancy house with a big garden for myself. Well, there it is, our list of the 10 best released Asian films of 2019. Please share your thoughts on our list below, either here on YouTube or whatever site you're watching this video through. Did we get it right, or are we way off the mark? What films are we missing? Remember to bookmark and visit the sites listed on screen to keep up to date with all the latest in Asian cinema. Like this video and subscribe to see more content like this, including long and short form video reviews, trailers, interviews, and list videos.